Claire, a writer in search of inspiration, craved solitude. She had been living in the bustling city for years, surrounded by noise and constant distractions. The clamor of urban life had begun to stifle her creativity, leaving her feeling drained and uninspired. She longed for a place where she could hear her own thoughts, where the only sounds were the rustling of leaves and the chirping of birds. She found it in a rambling Victorian house on the edge of town. The house was a relic from another era, with its ornate architecture and weathered facade. It stood proudly, as if defying the passage of time. Claire was immediately captivated by its charm and character. The house stood alone, shrouded by ancient oaks and veiled in an eerie silence. The trees seemed to guard the house, their gnarled branches reaching out like protective arms. The air was thick with the scent of pine and earth, and the only sound was the whisper of the wind through the leaves.
It was as if the house itself was whispering a story that had been waiting for someone to listen, to uncover its secrets and bring them to life. The house had an aura of mystery, as if it held countless tales within its walls. A story Claire felt inexplicably drawn to. She could feel the house's history seeping into her bones, filling her with a sense of purpose and excitement. It was as if the house had chosen her, as if it knew she was the one who could tell its story. Perhaps this was the muse she had been yearning for. The inspiration that had eluded her for so long seemed to be within reach, just waiting to be discovered.
The realtor had described the house as having character. Claire found herself agreeing. The house was more than just a building. It was a living, breathing entity with a soul of its own. The home's isolation was both unsettling and alluring. It was a place where she could be alone with her thoughts, free from the distractions of the outside world. But it was also a place that held a certain mystery, a sense of the unknown that both intrigued and unnerved her. Its stillness promised a peaceful environment to write. The rooms were filled with an almost tangible silence, a quiet that seemed to wrap around her like a comforting blanket. The vintage decor added to the house's charm, making it feel like a step back in time. And Claire, eager to escape the distractions of city life, was ready to embrace the quiet. She had always been drawn to nature, finding solace in its beauty and tranquility. The house, with its secluded location and serene surroundings, was the perfect place for her to reconnect with herself and her writing.
She packed her bags, her typewriter, and a stack of blank paper, her mind already teeming with ideas. She could feel the excitement building within her, a sense of anticipation that she hadn't felt in years. The blank pages represented endless possibilities, a canvas for her to fill with her words and stories. She could hardly wait to get started, to let the house's whispers guide her pen. Her mind already teeming with ideas, Claire felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that this retreat would be the start of something new, a journey of self-discovery and creativity. The house had given her the gift of inspiration, and she was ready to embrace it with open arms. The house was a labyrinth of dimly lit hallways and shadowy corners. Each turn seemed to lead deeper into the heart of its mysterious past, where the walls whispered secrets of bygone eras. The air was thick with the weight of history, and every creak of the floorboards seemed to echo the footsteps of those who had walked these halls long before. Each room seemed to hold the echoes of a forgotten past. The furniture, though worn and aged, stood as silent witnesses to countless stories. The intricate designs on the wooden chairs and tables hinted at a time when craftsmanship was revered, and every piece was made with care and purpose. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the dusty windows, casting long, dancing shadows across the worn furniture. The beams of light, though faint, brought a sense of life to the otherwise still and silent rooms. It was as if the house itself was breathing, its soul intertwined with the light and shadows that played upon its surfaces.
Claire ran her fingers over the chipped paintwork on an antique dresser. The texture of the worn wood beneath her fingertips was a tangible connection to the past. She could almost feel the hands that had crafted it, the lives that had touched it, and the stories it had silently witnessed over the years. She imagined the people who had lived and loved within these walls, families who had gathered around the fireplace on cold winter nights, lovers who had whispered sweet nothings in the dimly lit corners, and children who had played and laughed in the sunlit rooms. Each memory seemed to come alive in her mind, painting a vivid picture of the house's storied past. Their presence seemed to linger, whispering tales of joy and sorrow. The air was thick with the emotions of those who had come before, and Claire could almost hear their voices, faint and distant, like echoes from another time. It was as if the house itself was a living entity, holding on to the memories of its past inhabitants.
The air was heavy with the scent of damp wood and forgotten memories. The musty aroma seemed to wrap around her, pulling her deeper into the house's embrace. Each breath she took was filled with the essence of history, a reminder of the countless lives that had been lived within these walls. Despite its eerie charm, the house had a welcoming feel. It was as if it was inviting her to uncover its secrets, to delve into the stories that had been hidden away for so long. The warmth of the wooden beams and the soft glow of the sunlight filtering through the windows created a sense of comfort and belonging, as if it was inviting her to uncover its secrets. Claire felt a connection to the house, a bond that seemed to transcend time. She knew that she was meant to be here, to explore the depths of its history and to bring its stories back to life.
Claire felt a thrill of anticipation. The house was a treasure trove of history, and she was eager to uncover its hidden gems. Each room held the promise of discovery, and she couldn't wait to see what secrets lay behind each door. She was determined to unlock the stories hidden within the house's walls. The faded wallpaper, the creaky floorboards, and the antique furniture all held clues to the past. Claire knew that with patience and perseverance, she would be able to piece together the puzzle of the house's history. She unpacked her belongings, her heart filled with a strange mix of excitement and trepidation. The house was a mystery waiting to be solved, and Claire was ready to embark on the journey. As she settled into her new surroundings, she couldn't help but feel that she was about to uncover something truly extraordinary. The shadows of the past were calling to her, and she was ready to listen.
The first few days passed in a blur of creative energy. Claire had always dreamed of finding a place where she could be alone with her thoughts, a sanctuary where her creativity could flow without interruption. This old house, with its creaking floorboards and vintage charm, seemed to be the perfect setting. The days melded into nights, and she found herself lost in a whirlwind of inspiration. The words flowed effortlessly from Claire's fingertips. Each keystroke felt like a release, a way to channel her innermost thoughts and emotions onto the page. The typewriter, an old relic she had found in the attic, became her trusted companion. Its rhythmic clatter was like a heartbeat, steady and reassuring. The silence of the house was broken only by the rhythmic clatter of her typewriter. It was a comforting sound, one that echoed through the empty rooms and hallways. The house, once filled with the laughter and chatter of its previous inhabitants, now stood as a silent witness to Claire's creative journey.
She felt a sense of peace she had never known before. The solitude, which she had once feared, now enveloped her like a warm embrace. It was in this quietude that she found her true self, a self that had been buried under the noise and chaos of everyday life. The house seemed to inspire her, its walls whispering stories of the past. Each room held a different memory, a different piece of history. The vintage decor with its faded wallpaper and antique furniture added to the charm. It was as if the house itself was a muse, guiding her hand as she wrote, fueling her imagination with each passing hour. Claire's mind was a whirlwind of ideas, each one more vivid and compelling than the last. She wrote with a fervor she had never experienced before, her pen moving almost of its own accord. The stories poured out of her, each one a testament to her newfound freedom. Claire lost herself in her work, the outside world fading away. The hours slipped by unnoticed, the days blending into one another. She was completely absorbed in her writing, her mind and body working in perfect harmony. It was a state of flow, a state of pure creative bliss, the outside world fading away. The isolation, which had once seemed daunting, now felt like a gift. It allowed her to focus entirely on her work, without any distractions. The old house, with its creaking floorboards and whispering walls, became her sanctuary.
She wrote late into the night, the only sounds the creaking of the old house. The darkness outside only served to heighten her senses, making her more aware of the world within. The dim light from her desk lamp cast long shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere of mystery and intrigue. The only sounds the creaking of the old house. The floorboards, worn and weathered by time, seemed to have a life of their own. They groaned and sighed with each step, as if sharing in Claire's creative journey. The house, with its many secrets, became a character in her stories. and the rustling of leaves outside her window. The wind, a constant companion, whispered through the trees, adding to the symphony of sounds. It was a reminder of the world outside, a world that seemed so distant and yet so close. The leaves, dancing in the moonlight, seemed to be in tune with her thoughts. The solitude, once a longing, was now her reality. It was a reality she embraced wholeheartedly, finding solace in the quiet moments. The old house, with its creaking floorboards and whispering walls, became her sanctuary. It was a place where she could be herself, where she could let her imagination run wild. She reveled in it, her mind free to explore the depths of her imagination. The stories she wrote were a reflection of her innermost thoughts and feelings, a way to make sense of the world around her. Each word was a step on her journey, a journey of self-discovery and creative expression.
The house, she felt, was her haven, a place where creativity flourished. It was a place where she could be alone with her thoughts, where she could find inspiration in the quiet moments. The old house, with its many secrets, became a part of her creative journey, a place where creativity flourished. The vintage writing desk with its papers and quill became her sanctuary. It was a place where she could let her imagination run wild, where she could create worlds and characters that were a reflection of her innermost thoughts and feelings. The old house, with its creaking floorboards and whispering walls, became her muse, guiding her hand as she wrote.
One night, a storm raged outside.
I was sitting at my desk, completely engrossed in my work, when I heard it.
She paused, listening intently.
I tried to dismiss it as the storm playing tricks on my mind.
The silence of the house, once comforting, now seemed to press in on her.
I tried to focus on my work, but the whisper lingered in the back of my mind.
The whispers continued. They were always soft, elusive, difficult to pinpoint. They seemed to slither through the walls, weaving themselves into the fabric of the house.
Then one night, I heard it clearly. My name, whispered slowly, deliberately in the darkness.
A chill ran down her spine. Her heart pounded in her chest. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her.
I searched the house, my senses on high alert, but there was no one there.
The house was silent, but the silence now felt different. It was no longer peaceful. It was the silence of something lurking, something unseen.
The whispers had awakened a terror within me that I couldn't shake off. My sanctuary had become my prison.